Okay, we are recording.
Okay. So it is now 6:32. Today is Tuesday, June 2nd, year's 2020. And this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Marquette Township Board. And we do have a flag, so let's say the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Little delays there.
It's kind of funny.
Makes it interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Still no John. Okay. Let's do a roll call, Randy, please.
Okay, Trustee Marks was here, but I'll mark him excused right now until he gets back. Trustee Wiegand,
Here.
Trustee LaRue,
Here.
Trustee Everson,
Here.
Treasurer Johnson,
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Gerard, our legal counsel Roger Zappa, Dulcie Rant, our assessor, is here. John Kangas, our superintendent of public works, is here. Jason McCarthy, our zoning planning administrator, is here. Looks like Brenda Helgren, our billing clerk, is here. And Mike Springer is here from the Planning, Roads, and Recreation Committee. And I think that's it
So far.
so far.
If anybody, well, we do have some public. Do you have any correspondence, Randy?
I do not have, let me look here quickly. I do not have any emailed public comment.
Okay. And do we have anybody participating that would like to address the board?
Looks like you got iPad 5 Todd has raised their hand to participate.
Okay.
Yeah, just briefly, I appreciate it. I just wanted to thank this board for all the hard work you do. I know it's a lot of work. You make the township run a lot smoother, a lot better, and I just wanted to say thank you. That's all I have.
Todd, you just want to state your name and address, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot, Randy. My name's Todd Caruth, and I live at 2522 Werner Street.
And you're the Recreation Committee Chair, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Todd.
Those comments, Todd. Any board member comment in relation to that? Okay, then we can have approval of the consent agenda. I'll read that for tonight. It consists of the approval of the regular meeting minutes of May 19th, 2020. Bills payable in the amount of $198,686.06. Committee and other reports tonight are the road committee meeting agenda for June 2nd and the utility billing calendar for June. Correspondence not requiring board action is charter communications regarding lineup and their quarterly franchise fee payment. Thank you very much. And a road closure notice of County Road 492 beginning on May 29th. So we've already got that done. Just need approval in a second.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as said.
I'll second that, LaRue, second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes,
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant. Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Okay, then I'd like to make one adjustment to the agenda, if I may. I'd like to move 7A, the update on the status of the manager candidate, to 9C, just so that we can get rid of all of our business first and take care of that, and then we can have a little more time to talk about the candidate. So if anybody would agree with that.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Okay, roll call, please.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes,
Trustee LaRue,
Yes,
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
Okay, I'm not aware of any conflicts of interest. Nothing told me about. And we have no board education for tonight. Community linkage, A is going to go away. And we're going to consider information insert for residents in upcoming tax bills.
Hold on 1 minute, Len. John is coming in back in right now, so.
Good, all right, we'll give him a second.
John, you're here now, right?
there he is. I see him.
He's frozen.
There he is.
Can you hear us, John?
His audio can't be on.
He keeps freezing.
Yeah, I see he's freezing.
He's got a bad connection.
Yeah, why don't you go out and come back in, John, if you can hear us, and try again. He's kind of frozen there, so.
Yeah.
You just call the telephone, have him call.
You can hear us
You can
even.
call in too, yeah, I'll have to give him that information, or use my phone, I guess, and listen, but yeah, he's pretty frozen solid there.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep going so this doesn't take too long. So this is on the agenda because Dulcie made a suggestion last week that maybe we would want to take the opportunity. Actually, she asked me if I wanted to do a supervisor's letter or something and include it in the upcoming tax bills. So I thought, well, people don't really want to read a big old page letter of stuff. Maybe we could do some bullet points. And then I thought, well, maybe we better just bring it to the board and see what's important to you that you might want to try to notify the residents of. I mean, we've kind of beat the census to death, but if we have room, that would be nice to add some kind of a little section on it. But I want to give you the opportunity to think, is there something that's very pressing that you want to let the residents know? Because we're going to have everybody get their bills. Pete, go ahead.
I like a newsletter, because you'd be surprised how many people read the Marquette Senior Center newsletter, Nagani newsletter, and different things like that. You could put a lot of things that we're starting a road project that could go in there. You know, a lot of stuff like that, and people read it. You know, make them more aware of what's going on.
Okay. What else are we thinking?
Well, we have in the past had a bi-monthly newsletter that went out, and it became very expensive for us to do that. And that was one of the reasons we stopped doing it. The direct mailing was really getting to be costly as residents continued to increase and businesses continued to increase. So, I mean, that is something you could start up again every 6 months. We would issue a newsletter of what happened over the last 6 months and what's anticipated for the next 6 months. I mean, we could do that again. We're going to be looking at budgetary cuts here for the next 6 months of this year. So this would not be the year to start it, but possibly target January 1st.
It was a pretty sizable newsletter too. It was color and multiple
Yeah, it was
pages.
about 4 to 6 pages.
Yep.
You know,
Two-sided.
Go ahead, Pete.
how many times people see in a township to say, hey, what's going on with the township? You know, they're asking all these different questions, and you know, they're updated, and you think, gee, we should have a newsletter like we used to. I used to put one together for the SWIC people once a month, and it had safety ideas in there. Randy always has some good stuff about hunting and stuff like that. And, you know, all depends what you want to.
Dulcie, can you chime in? What did you say the deadline was for this? It was like next week or something, right?
I have the third week of June for sure. We'd want to make sure that we have it. Because my thought was, instead of worrying about having a full-blown newsletter, if you had something that had like the bullets of different things, we could tie it into our website, direct them to the website to get the rest of the information. But if you don't let them know kind of what we're doing, and I get that we're going to be having some hardships with our budget. I just thought since the mailing's already going out for tax bill purposes, it'd be a great time to piggyback with a one page because we're only going to be out a couple of reams of paper, so to speak, because it's not going to add to your postage. It's just take advantage of it. And just making sure that we're not going to discuss any type of millage or anything, because you can't include that with tax bills, but we could definitely provide information as to what's been going on or give them bullet ideas where they could find it maybe on our website. That was just my thought.
Well, and we could include what events, what's happening with the 2 events or the 3 events yet to go on this year. 2 of them are in jeopardy. One probably isn't, hopefully, in November. But we could do that. We could add a little blurb about a couple of the other things that are coming up later this year. Basically 1-line, 2-line, small little items that would, if they have interest, they could contact the office for more information. So yeah, I think we could fill up a page with things that are coming up. Revenue sharing is, for instance, people don't understand revenue sharing, where it comes from, maybe explain that.
We can actually have both sides too of
Sure.
the paper.
Anyway, yeah, we can do that.
Why don't you think about it, and you can email your comments either to Dulce or Randy if you've got some ideas. We've got a little bit of time. We'll probably actually hit our next meeting before that's due. So we might just put this back on the agenda again and see if there's any more discussion. Or I thought it was a good opportunity. And rather than just me waddling on, staff's got some ideas too, I'm sure.
And the only difference, if I may add, is instead of maybe having the county do our mailing for our tax bills, because we pay them to do that anyway, we pay for the postage. It's not a real hardship for us to use the stuff or folder that we already have at Marquette Township. And then, it doesn't take a real long time to stuff and fold tax bills. If we just did it there, if we needed to include a 1-page, here's what's been happening along with their tax bill.
Yeah. Now, would we send that with all the tax bills, or would we call out those that are escrows?
We would try to include it because we have the authority to mail out the escrows. So we could we don't have that many escrows in all honesty. So it could be an easy thing where we send that to them. That might be the only additional cost. Or tell the escrow companies to include it. I mean, I'll reach out to them. We'll get an answer for that.
Okay, I'll put that on the next agenda and we'll follow up and see what everybody can come up with. Dan?
Yeah, if it's little or no cost to the township, I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. I got a couple reams of paper I'll donate even. So I think it's a good idea.
Okay, just have to figure out what we want to say.
Okay.
Okay, good, thank you. Next up is 8A committee updates. Planning first, maybe Dave, what have you got?
Yeah, we've got the May 27th Planning Commission meeting. They approved a site plan with conditions for 3195 Wright Street. It's a 8,375 square foot Verizon Dunkin' Donuts retail store. And that property, you guys familiar, is the old bank property located on the corner of Wright Street and US 41. And the other thing the Planning Commission worked on was they set a public hearing for a residential solar system. It's a special use permit. It's set for Wednesday, June 24th at 7 p.m. The property is located at 2002 Werner Street. The applicant is Ben Schimpf from Peninsula Solar, and the property owner is Peter Zenti. And that's it for the Planning Commission. I can go into the road if you want. Or
Sure, go ahead.
okay, Farner was scheduled to start last Thursday or Friday, depending on weather, with the 2020 road rehab project. They're going to start with crack sealing operations. They're tentatively talking about doing their infrared hotch patch as early as the middle of June. And they are coordinating with Marquette County Road Commission on their County Road 492 project. And the other piece of discussion for tonight, and this was all at tonight's meeting, by the way, the committee is looking at a relatively new repair option to replace chip sealing, which has never been popular among the residents because of all the debris it leaves behind and all the cleanup that's necessary. And this new treatment is called GSB 88. It's a lower cost item. It's between $1.20 to $1.25 a square yard as compared to $2.50 a square yard for chip seal. It's a little cleaner project, and the nice thing about it is the road is turned back for use 2 hours after they put the application on. So the cleanup is quick. The road can get back to normal use. The road committee is going to take a look at it. We'll make a little better presentation to the board as we move down the road here in another month or so, when we get some more information on it. Ryan is currently going to query Michigan Tech at the RoadSoft people and see if they've had any experiences with it. And we can get some information together, and more than likely the end result is we'll include it as well as the alternative treatments on the 2021 bid when they go out. Just take a look at, because you remember we've canceled a number of the chip seal projects because they're so expensive and we didn't have the budget to do it. So maybe this will get things more in line so we can afford some of those options. And it's a better system from what we can see. Todd Caruth, when he saw what we were doing, he did some research and sent us a link that does a little video presentation on the process, and I can forward all that to you guys if you want it. There's a packet, there's some information in the board packet tonight along with the rec committee agenda. That is more of a brochure, but I can forward you that link to the video, and you guys go look at the video yourself if you want to. But that's where that's going. And the rec committee, the kiosk signs are wrapped up. They're approved. It's just a matter of getting them printed and put in, so they should be in there shortly. And they're just wrapping up the update on the rec committee bylaws, so that'll be headed to the planning commission here in a little bit, probably the end of the month. And that's it.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Dave? Yeah, Randy.
Not a question. It looks like John Marks is here now. John, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, as long as you can hear us and we can hear you, we can hear you, so that's good.
Good deal. Events, I don't know. Randy and Pete, do you want to talk about events?
Sure. Pete, would you prefer to, or you want me to?
You got him in your thing. We had a meeting the other day, and the car show is pretty much canceled because with this distance, 6 feet distance, and how many cars you have, it's almost going to be impossible to do with something like that. And then Randy can tell you about the rest of it then.
Okay, yeah, as Pete mentioned, we had a fair amount of discussion regarding the two upcoming projects that we have, the car show, which is scheduled for June 20th, and then the Community Day celebration, which is the first Saturday in August 2nd, I believe it is, 2nd or 3rd. But at any event, both of those items are pretty well attended. And when we were discussing these, the governor's order, I think it was 2020-100, basically was active at that point, and it indicated that those types of gatherings would not be allowed because of the social distancing issue through June 19th at 11:59 p.m. So essentially Saturday morning, the Saturday we would be holding it. From that standpoint, and also from a financial standpoint, because we now know that we're going to have a substantial reduction in our revenue sharing because sales taxes are down so much in the state, we opted to cancel that event. The same discussion took place with the Community Day. As you know, Community Day is pretty well attended. We cannot, under that order, 2020-100, entertain any softball games. We can't have the inflatables. There's a question as to whether we can provide food. So we opted to also cancel that. As you all know, yesterday at 3:45 in the afternoon, Governor Whitmer came out with 2020-110, which relaxed some of those requirements. We're not really sure yet what that means with regard to our activities that we had planned. MTA just this afternoon at 5:33, in fact, came out with an email interpretation And it basically still restricts outdoor activities. It opens public swimming pools with a capacity of not more than 50% of their capacity, subject to Department of Health and Health Services guidance. Day camps can open up, again, under Department of Licensing and Regulation requirements. Libraries and museums, restaurants and bars, which puts into question, we've been getting calls about people using the ice rink facility and using the tennis courts for pickleball. I don't believe under these requirements that that can be allowable, because you won't be exercising the distance requirements, and possibly, I just don't know at this point. So we're still researching that to see where that leaves us with outdoor activities. So as it sits right now, both the car show on June 20th and the community day for the first Saturday in August are tentatively canceled by the committee, unless the board wants us to do something different.
Dave?
It would be my opinion that we would move that from the tentative to just cancel it. It's a budget impact issue. It's a, can you comply with the directives from the governor? I just think we're better off to just cancel them both and move on. Hopefully.
There's also a significant financial issue as well, particularly with the community day. That's generally about a $5,000 to $6,000 project.
We just don't have the money.
We don't have it.
Well, we are concerned about that, because with the reduction in revenue sharing, there's the estimate for this year is about a $20,000 to $25,000 loss, and next year looks more like about $38,000. So we have to find that in the budget for this year.
Dan, did you have a comment? Did I see your hand up? Okay.
I mean, it's just, we don't have the money. There's not much we can do about it. So it's unfortunate, but it's reality at this point.
Pete?
Another ruling about the dark store in Escanaba, they lost theirs. And then we got a couple that's pending or going to come through us. And the way they've been sliding them through there, I mean, we might lose those two, and then how much is that going to cost us?
Yeah, that is another fiscal concern, because that would come directly out of our general fund balance, which is not real healthy already because of the prior decisions of the tax tribunal.
Dave?
Yeah, I would just like to suggest that we just go ahead and cancel those and be done with it for this year. And we're going to suffer a little more of a financial loss in the revenue stream next year, but we got a little longer to take a look at that, see if we can fit them back in. But I think the biggest concern I've got this year is the safety aspect, because it's
Right.
When they drop their restrictions, all that means is there's more hot room in the hospital for you. So I don't think it means anything else. So I just think we got to go ahead and cancel it.
I agree. I think there's going to be a lingering impact of the virus, and the more you put groups together, the more that's going to occur.
Pete?
Then if, the community days, we have a lot of elderly people there. And we wouldn't want someone to come to a function of the township and then get sick or something like that. It just wouldn't settle right. It bothered me a lot. But I don't know how much Christmas costs, the Santa Claus, what's that? We'd have to take a look at that one, but.
Hopefully by November, we'll be past this, hopefully.
But with the ball game and people eating and bathrooms and stuff like that, I wouldn't want to take a chance.
Not only that, but we've got to worry about enforcing it too. And I don't like the idea of us, up to people saying, are you related? Are you living together? Can you stand that close? I mean, we can't do that.
No, and if we sponsor the event, we are responsible for that.
Yeah,
Right.
It's not practical either. So, Randy, since that's kind of falls under yours, do you want a motion to cancel these, or are we good with consensus from the committee members?
Well, it's actually a community event, so I guess I would like to have consensus from the board, and it sounds like we probably do, but if we could just memorialize that in the minutes as a consensus of the board. I don't know that you actually need a motion per se.
Dave?
Just to keep everything in the paperwork correct, I would just make a motion to cancel the car show for 2020 and the community day celebration for 2020.
Support.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, please, Randy?
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
trustee Marks. Trustee Marks,
Yes.
I think we lost him again.
well, I
I'll
should,
support the motion then.
well, he's there and I don't know if he can hear us, but
On behalf of John Marks, I would like to vote.
Keep
Uh,
going.
I'll go with trustee LaRue then.
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes,
Okay, those events are now officially canceled for the summer.
you could list John as uncommitted, maybe.
Well, I'll just list them as well,
He
he
was in
actually
the
did make the motion, but he's gone again, so
All right,
I'll just say he was a yes because he motioned it.
okay.
Second.
We can regroup too later.
Hey, Lynn,
Sure.
is there anything we can do to improve upon we're losing John, a lot of times we lost Ernie and stuff like that. Is there any way we can do a better job of that, or is there something we can do to get something
That's-
updated?
That's their internet as far as I understand it, whatever their connection.
Yeah, we,
It's their connection, Pete, so we can't do much about that.
yeah, we have expanded the bandwidth significantly, 3 times as much. So it's not on our end, it's on their end.
All right. Thank you.
A good question, though. Ernie?
I had to update my Zoom software. That's why I couldn't get on right away.
I had a request too, right quick, but I didn't do it right tonight. That might be part of it. We'll have to point that out to John just in case. Let's see. We are also going to need, still talking about committees. I've been informed this week that we're losing a couple of our members, at least by the end of the year. We remember that Mike Springer is resigning from the Planning Commission. We've already lost one other position there. We have, Mike has shown an interest in staying on the DDA, and then the roads and rec that he's involved in. So we'll have those positions to try to fill. Todd, I was going to say Caruth, Todd Nordyke is also resigning from the DDA. And although he's chair now, the position would be open for a business.
Correct.
If you're aware of any businesses that you think would be good for us to get a hold of and be represented in the township, they don't have to, the person doesn't have to live in the township as long as the business is in the township. And it wouldn't necessarily mean that position would be the chair. That's a DDA elected position. So they wouldn't have to feel the pressure of having to go in as a chair. So we are going to need some people to step up. And I'm not just saying this for the board, obviously, but if you know somebody, but anybody else who's listening in, those positions will be available by the end of the year. Actually, Todd's is more recent. It's the middle of July, I believe.
Correct.
Andy?
3rd Monday.
Yeah, so that one will be kind of important as we go forward because the DDA is so involved with the corridor project that's happening, the MSU planning grant, and the MDOT improvements that are going to happen in the eastbound lane in the corridor and all that we've involved with that. So that's pretty important position too. We would also lose with Todd, or I shouldn't say we, but the township kind of loses from the standpoint of the business association because Todd was a vice chair of the business association for his business, but he also spoke, for the township and the board, of course. So, some of those positions are pretty vital when more than one position is held by one person. So just keep your ears open if you could. I'm happy to call anybody if you want to give me some names and phone numbers. I'm happy to anytime, or give them to Randy or whatever works for you.
For those listening in the audience beyond the board, on our website is a discussion of what those committees are all about, and also an application form that you can fill out online.
That might be something we could put in that one page too with the tax bills, is some kind of a blurb of the positions open, maybe just a one sentence what they do, and then refer them to the website and the expiration date of the terms, because some of them will be filling a term. So good idea. I'm gonna write that down for committees. Okay, anything else with committees reports or questions? Okay, just like to make sure I give everybody time. And we have no draft committee reports. So we're up with discussion of essential staff return from remote work, Executive Order 2020-93.
Well, that's been usurped by 2020-110. So what we were going to discuss at that point is we have developed a return to work plan, basically, that would address when and how people would be coming back from the remote work that they're doing now. What the interior and internal policies and procedures would be with regard to sanitation, with regard to protective equipment, with regard to interactions with other individuals, with regard to continuing to have the offices both here, the fire department, as well as Public Works, not open to the public for an additional 30 days beyond that date. But now with the order that came out yesterday at 3:45, we are remaining as we are now until further notice. So don't need to have any more discussion about bringing folks back to work until the order changes. So we will continue to finalize the policies that will be in place to bring folks back to work and be prepared for that to occur. So more to come.
Okay, that was easy. Update regarding the Sustainable Built Climate Adaptation Grant.
Now Randy's back.
John's back.
Can hear you, John.
Okay.
Good deal.
And Jason is on to discuss that.
Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep, we got you. Okay, Jay, take it away.
Yeah, so on May 7th, we had the second of 3 meetings regarding a sustainability and climate adaptation grant that we received through the Michigan State Extension. They have identified a number of areas along the corridor where improvements can be made to improve the corridor, both from a pedestrian standpoint and from other factors, airborne. Well, actually, airborne viruses was one of the components of it. So as a part of that, there were some renderings that were provided. They took a picture in a certain area, and then they would re-render that with what they thought were the best management practices. Some of those images were also reviewed by MDOT to identify whether or not some of the components of those images can actually be constructed in the right-of-way. And so there was some hit and miss. There were some really good ideas, but there were also some images that weren't very reflective of what would be considered something feasible by us in a project context. So what we've challenged them to do, and we were required by May 29th, which we accomplished thanks to the help of Mike Springer, we put together all of the task force comments that were received, and we transmitted those back to the grant agency, which would be the Michigan State Extension and their team. And a couple of the things that we suggested was that they use a couple of different images than they used in the first set of renderings. And that second, they get in touch with MDOT themselves to identify, if this is going to be a real feasible, tangible project that we can apply for grant funding for, or ask the DDA for some support on for matching a potential federal grant, then we would need to, definitely have those two in lockstep with each other. So an example would be, some larger trees in the corridor or rock structures, things that are, obviously native to the landscape, but wouldn't be native to a MDOT right-of-way. Things that can potentially be hazardous to a motorist or a non-motorized motorist. So we got the comments back to them. We're going to try to make some connections in different places, including linking them to a couple of previous corridor studies that have been done. The road safety audit that was done as a part of the project that's coming up in 2021. Last year, there were a number of engineers from around the state that monitored that segment of the project for a full 24 hours, and they had a lot of the same recommendations that we did as the road committee, the planning commission, what our master plan indicates is proper for us to do. And then the business association had some buy-in too. So it's moving forward in a great direction. And we're hopeful that, you know, within the next month or so, we're going to have some revised drawings and then the final deliverable, which will be some renderings that we can use to identify any potential projects that we can tie into the 2021 project. I will say though that, you know, those things cost money. So give and take, we still have a great planning grant and it's going to be a great deliverable. It's just a matter of whether or not we can execute that given the current situation. And, you know, it might be something that we can add on to later if need be. We're hopeful. Like I said, we're gonna have some great documents that'll give us some renderings that'll allow us to go and apply for some grants and really tell a nice story about what we're trying to do.
Great.
Does that cover it, Lynn?
Mm-hmm. Very good. Any questions for Jason or about the project? Or DDA joined in our last meeting a little bit, some of them, so they're aware, because some of that was going to be possibly funded by a DDA millage, either
Right.
from match or, you know, we were looking at lighting and we looked at safe crossing, and some of that stuff got poo-pooed finally by MDOT, so we knew exactly what we can and can't do now. So the project would change from the township's perspective, but not from MDOT's perspective.
You know, and the other piece of that, Lynn, that I think board members need to recognize, and also the DDA, is that the value of 1 mil in the DDA is rapidly decreasing as the result of tax tribunal decisions. I mean, they're making some significant impacts on what is generated by 1 mil within the DDA.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, because for so long during that discussion, we were saying how it was increasing.
Yeah, and it had been historically. The tax tribunal has reversed that now.
Yep.
Yeah, it would be a tough time to, you know, ask the businesses along the corridor to contribute to something when they're probably just trying to keep their doors open at this point.
Yeah.
What we did do though, remember Jace too, was in the discussion to encourage them, MDOT, to be able to show us what they could do that we could tab onto later.
Correct.
Whether it was the walkway or something, and conform or configure it rather to something that could be changed later or added on. So hopefully we can kind of still do that, whether it's the walkway or the corridor itself, you know, the boulevard part, or allowing for trees or whatever. So.
You know, the preservation of the space for those future amenities is important to that project.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, Dave.
I mean, I can understand how tight the budget is and how it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But having said that, and I assume, Jason, that we're still looking for grants and type of that to be available for that type of amenities in the corridor. So we're still looking, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and we've had those discussions with MDOT about a second transportation alternative program grant. If you remember, the TAP grant was the source that we used for the underpass and connection from the Arner Heritage Trail. So that's a federal program. But mind you, that's a 20% match. And if you're looking at, you know, and I've kind of spitballed a $1.5 to $2 million project, you're looking at a $500,000 match. So, you know, you remember we raised $200,000 locally to combine with the $300,000 that we got from an MNRTF to be the $500,000 match for the $2.5 million tunnel project.
Right. We're also talking about safety funds as well for the walkways and for the lighting, MDOT safety funds. So, but again, those have a match attached to them as well, and that's what we're trying to calculate.
Yeah, I guess I'm just suggesting that we don't just decide we can't afford it walk away from it. We should just keep pursuing it until we really have found a number that we need to raise, and then we know we can't afford that.
Yeah, well, that's true. And, and that is the approach that we're taking, is to continue to look for funding sources while at the same time working with MDOT to preserve the space, preserve the room for a future pedestrian way or for a future crossing or, lighting or whatever. So we don't lose that going forward with their reconstruction of the roadways.
Yeah, I'm not going to back off from it. So we'll keep pushing it forward, and at least we'll have some numbers put together as of 2020 as to what this would cost, and if it doesn't get done until 21 or 22, if things bounce back a little bit, at least we'll have some good quantities and numbers that'll be applicable somewhat to a future project.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate that update. Okay, now we can shift to the update on the status of the manager candidate and his contract. I'll give you a quick synopsis of kind of what's happened in the last couple weeks, and then we can talk about it. You can ask questions or whatever the board's pleasure, whatever direction you want to go. Clerk Rattari and I Zoomed with the candidate Tom last night. We pared the contract down from what he'd submitted. And some of those financial details I was able to throw together this afternoon and email to you. I know you didn't have a lot of time to look at it, but it did give you a little more of a perspective. The contract is not complete yet to be able to hand to you. Tom's attorney had to step through and take out a lot of the things that we had said would not work. And our attorney was finalizing some of those things. I got those at the end hour today. He was also having internet issues and typing issues and stuff. So as soon as that's complete to some form, we will get that to you. I don't know when that'll be. Tom was trying to shoot for this afternoon so we could have it for this meeting, but it didn't happen. We had some number crunching we had to do, numbers changed. So anyway, as soon as we get that, I will get that back to you for your approval or disapproval or comments. So when I saw the contract, the counter proposal, I was upset and I felt it was very excessive. So I'm mentioning that because we know that contracts start low, they go high, and somewhere we have to come in the middle. And that's where Randy and I have been working on this week. And we had a lot of good support from Attorney Zappa and Manager Gerard and our recruiter, Frank Walsh. They were all very helpful with information and suggestions. So I'd kind of like you to do kind of what I did. Before we go any further with this, I'd like you to ask yourself the same questions I did. First of all, what's the best decision that we need to make for the township for now and in the next 5 years? Do we think the candidate can do the job? Do I think that I can work with him? Can the board work with him? Can the staff work with him? Once we've answered all of that, then I think we can look at the changed contract based on some of the information I've already given you. Those numbers may tweak a little bit, but they shouldn't too much. And can we change that contract to reflect the best interest of the township and the candidate and make it work? Or do we follow a process of the next steps beyond that? So I'm sure you've had time from the last week to think about your feelings, what you think is best for answering all those questions, best for the township, best for the board, best for the staff. And then if we can answer all those positively, then we need to look at the money, in my opinion. I think that's how the discussion should start. And pretty much everybody's phones are on mute, so I'm thinking nobody wants to talk.
Well, I can talk for a little bit.
Go ahead, John.
When you first asked, when we had 4 candidates, you asked the board to pick 2 people out of the 4 that we wanted to have further conversation with. And who would we pick as those 2 people? At that time, I chose not to ask that we have further consideration of Mr. Tom Marcus. And the reason why at that time was not because I didn't think he
Lost connection.
Yeah, he's freezing.
Can you call him, Randy, and see if he can call in? At least that connection is solid.
Yeah, I will do that. He's having some internet connections at his house, so I'll try to.
Yeah, at least we can hear him then, if, because he's obviously got something specific to say. If I go to somebody else, he'll kick in.
We can wait a minute.
Yeah, wait till Randy connects with him. Okay, he's off. Okay. Does anybody want to, in the interim? Go ahead, Dave.
You may find this hard to believe, but I have some comments.
Okay, good.
The first time we considered the contract we offered him, in my opinion, that was on the verge, and it was pushing the envelope on excessive.
Okay.
I thought his pay was high, and some of the other things were questionable. When we got back his initial offer, and even when I looked at your analysis of the Tom, Randy, and Lynn negotiation, I find that is excessive. I find it's excessive in the pay. I find it's excessive in the number of days off. If I do my calculations right, I think he's looking someplace into 54 days off for the year. And he wants to start off with 10 days off as soon as he signs the contract. To be blunt, he looks like he's looking for a way to supplement his retirement. I don't get the feeling that the commitment is there. And so with that, I would like to, I've read the counter from Mr. Marcus, as well as our proposed counter to his counter. And I believe the counter offer received from Mr. Marcus, as well as our latest proposed offers, is excessive and well outside of what this township should consider. In fact, I believe our original offer pushed as far as we could go to the limit. Simply stated, in consideration of this current era of COVID-19 declining revenues and potential budget shortfalls in which we find ourselves, this proposed contract represents an expense that should not be given further consideration. In my opinion, the board should withdraw the conditional offer of employment extended to Mr. Marcus, as we are unable to reach a satisfactory employment agreement. And additionally, I believe the board should present an offer to Manager Gerard extending his contract through December 31st of 2021. And I believe we should do that because it allows us to move beyond the COVID-19 issues and allows our budget to be adjusted more in line with our declining revenue stream that we've experienced of late, by someone and with someone who is more than familiar with the township history and needs. And finally, a contract extension into the end of 2021, inasmuch as we are fast approaching the end of this board's term, allows the township to move to the next 4-year board cycle before readdressing the issue.
Is that a motion?
Well, wait a minute. Let's have some other people talk.
Well, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I would rather hear from other people first.
John wants to talk now, Lynn.
Okay, I can't hear him real well.
Oh,
Can I go ahead and talk?
Absolutely. Go ahead, John.
Okay, let me just say, when I received the returned amended contract copy, the one that Mr. Marcus had sent back to us, I went through it and analytically, as far as I'm concerned, identified everything that was a revision from what we had approved to send from the committee to Mr. Marcus. And that ended up with, it started with 108, that was 7,000 more than what the committee was authorized to offer him. And then it had $2,000 for both normal life insurance, $2,000 for moving expenses, and $3,000 for an automobile allowance. Now, I know that some of that has been contemplated as being to be renegotiated, but any way you look at it, that was $115,000. Or if you want to look at it a little differently, it was an amount of $13,596 plus the unknown numbers that we would have to add for other things that he was asking for. Now, once again, I'll say, I know that the committee wants to offer something, but that was an extremely, as far as I'm concerned, an unusual amount of money for him to be asking for in addition to what we had offered. I personally agree that we should really think clearly whether this is a candidate that we think is a good fit for our township, and whether we could look our township taxpayers in the eye and say, is this something we really can afford? I agree, and I would move with Dave, if that's what it takes as a motion, that we end any further employee agreement negotiations with the manager applicant, Thomas Marker, until the township board approves a counter offer. I think that the township board has to get more involved than they have been in this last few steps. I'm not criticizing the committee. I think the committee's doing everything they can to make something work. But I think that and to even think that our search person didn't communicate everything that was offered to our manager and to other people, to say that he wasn't aware of this or that, I think that's just so much BS. And I would say, let's not move to have any negotiations go any further until the township board approves a counter offer, and that's my position.
Okay, Pete?
You know, we've been discussing this for a long time now, and I didn't get the last, revised division at the last minute here. But I truly believe that John Marks would do a good job for us. He's got the background. He don't have it, and it sort of bothered me a little bit that he wanted to maintain his relationships with all the different cities and organizations and that. Here we're a chartered township. We have MTA, we have the township associations. Them are the associations and the local people and business people that he has to protect. He has to get to know. I'm not in favor of supporting that. I just don't know. I think he's very well qualified for us, but we're a population of 4,000 people, we're over 4,000 now. And used to coming from a 10 or 100,000 population to us. We're a little bit a lot smaller, you know, we don't have the money, we're just ahead of us. And I just think that he take a good look at it. When I read it, I thought, well, I would send the original one back to him, you know, and it's not pie in the sky. You know, we're going to be hurting with revenue sharing, the dark store issue, and other things that are coming up. And hell, we just hit the residents with the road millage. You know, how much can we put on the residents? You know, and yeah, how can he save? I mean, he got background in saving and planning and stuff like that. But how much can he save that Randy couldn't save? You know, there are not a lot of savings to do right now, not with the way this legislator is it's doing now. It's scary. I had several sheets of paper about what I wanted to do, but after I found out what they threw out already, I'd like to see a draft of what you negotiated in the last couple of days on it and what he's accepting or he would want, and then just see, where does he want to go with it, you know? And like I say, I really think that he'd do a great job for us, but not at these rates. I feel sorry for it, but I want him in the worst way, but we just can't afford someone like that.
Okay. Can I explain something? If the board had let Frank continue doing his job, he would have been the negotiator. But the board felt that they wanted to have a hand in what was going on and a say, so they appointed us. And I think we can do a pretty good job, Randy and I did and can do a pretty good job of interpreting the board's wishes and hopes. But if Frank had been negotiating this instead of us, and you hadn't requested seeing each document as it was produced, you wouldn't have seen this excessive document at all. And you've got to remember that. That's very significant. Frank would have talked to Randy and me. He would have said, this isn't going to work. In fact, maybe he did tell him that in a subsequent conversation. I don't know. He would have done the negotiating and come back with probably what Randy and I came back with. Maybe a little more, a little less. The fact that you got that initial contract from him totally skewed your perception of him, what he thinks he can have that he can't because we're a charter township, which is a misunderstanding in some cases. And the fact that you haven't even talked to him but a couple times. Now, I'm not defending him, what he did, what he said or anything. I'm talking about the process. And if you're talking about money, we were prepared to pay the previous candidate more. The package itself is what you have to look at. It doesn't matter if one thing is higher than the other, if it's all related to the wage. And that's why I did that spreadsheet for you today, so that you could see that it doesn't matter what the life insurance cost is, because it's going to be relative to whatever the employee, their age or whatever. The things you have to think about are the wage and the MERS contribution and the PTO. And then the moving expense was an extra request from both candidates. And that's why I put that explanation together for you, so that you could understand that Tom pretty much accepted that, but he still has the contract. He hasn't even given it to you. You haven't even gotten it. You're assuming right off the bat that this is a done deal. What he said to us is what he wants, and that's it. And what Randy and I did has no impact. And there's no room for more negotiating or more compromising. And that's my objection. Whether he comes with us, whether he's the perfect candidate, whether we vote him down today or tomorrow or next week, it doesn't matter. I'm frustrated about the process. You're assuming this is a done deal and we're not even finished. And again, if we had let it go through the way it was supposed to go with hiring Frank and letting him do it, we would not be even questioning this stuff right now, probably. So that's my objection, regardless of how I vote for or against what happens. Yes, Pete.
Then why did you bring it to us right now? Because you were not done negotiating. Yous are out there negotiating. You're writing this in halfway through it. You should have finished it before you get down to the nuts and bolts. That's it. The thing is, when you negotiate a contract, you go high and low, but you don't bring everything back to the board. We're not so interested. We want to know the end result. Right. That's what we want to know. What's it going to cost? Maybe you should have kept negotiating, and then when you get down to what you feel is, bring it back. What you have on your table right now, you're saying this is it or nothing.
I'm not.
You're only halfway through the process. You should never have brought it back.
Exactly. And the only reason I did was because everybody thought that the counter offer that Tom put in was it. And I didn't even know that until today when I had a couple of phone calls and found out that, you know, Little Red, the sky is falling. So I thought, well, I'm going to give you what we're discussing, even though nothing's done. If you hadn't asked to see Tom's contract immediately, this wouldn't have happened. Randy and I could have taken care of it and brought you something that we could discuss. The process got subverted. And that's what frustrated us. We spent more time trying to figure out how to process this for you guys than actually working on the negotiations.
We negotiated a contract years ago. I would never bring it back to the membership until I was done with it.
I didn't bring you a contract.
You give us too much information right now. You're leaving us to make up the decisions what we should do and shouldn't do. And you're not there yet.
There's no decision tonight unless somebody wants to make a decision. You gripe all the time if I don't give you enough information. You got information from Tom's contract you shouldn't have gotten yet because we had not even started to negotiate because you said you wanted it. So here I am and Randy in the middle trying to figure out how to get you the information you need because you're asking for it that you shouldn't have.
Then finish the process then.
Then let me finish it and don't discard this candidate before we're finished. If he's not the best candidate, and how do you know that he is even going to want to work with a bunch of people that aren't even going to give him a chance?
You don't know. You don't know that because we're not that way. We're not that way, Lynn. You know it. We're looking out for the residents, but he is a very qualified candidate.
Yeah, he's more qualified.
Exactly. He's overly qualified for it. So.
Yep, he's got experience that none of us could even participate with.
I do like him as be a good manager.
Randy.
Yeah, John wanted to speak. John, go ahead, John.
When we looked at the red-lined contract that was prepared to go to first to our attorneys for a little tweaking, and then go to candidate Marcus, we all had a handle and a pretty clear understanding of a complete document going to him and knowing the amount of money was 101 and things like that. And we all got to read that. Then the committee was authorized to go ahead and make that offer. What's missing in the operation that's occurred? And I don't find great fault with it. I'm just telling you that the difference has been that when Mr. Marcus returned his counter proposal, when you decided that you had something you thought could be offered, that's the point when the board as a whole body should have had an opportunity to look at it before it went to Marcus and before it went to his good, long, close friend, Mark. What I'm saying is that's the flaw that's in this at this point in negotiation. And when anyone was to go through in detail with the variations in what the counter proposal had to what was offered, it amounted to a considerable amount of money. You can compare it to anything you want, but the bottom line is it was $13,000 more. And then there were a lot of unknown costs that needed to be established and possibly added to that 115. So that's the flaw in the negotiation to date. And I think the most polite way I can say is I don't think we should I think there should be an end to further employee agreement negotiations with the manager applicant, Marcus, until the township board approves a counteroffer. Until you do that, we're not part of it. We're not giving you the same authorization you had earlier. And again, I want to be careful. I think that there's been a tremendous amount of work and effort. It's just that we need to take a deep breath and I think possibly have a closed session where we can talk some more.
Nope, no closed session on this, John. Can't do it.
Okay.
Session.
Okay, so we'll just have to live with saying it's my intent that we not have any further negotiations until our township board approves the counteroffer. That's my position, and I'll just await hearing how the rest of the board feels.
Okay, so let me clarify a few things, John. We talked to Tom yesterday, and it was well understood by him that we would take the offer that we kind of whittled down to the board for further consideration. It was not a counter offer, and he knew that you guys were going to see what we presented to you. So there's no counter offer yet on the table until the board approves it. And Lynn's actually is absolutely 100% right that if the process should have been followed, we would have had Mr. Walsh be the middle person in this, and he would have did the board's bidding because he would have met with us and would have took our input of what we wanted and would have did the negotiations for us. This process is so disjointed because we have to do it this way. And unfortunately, you know, I'm really frustrated and I will not negotiate for this board again because it's just I just won't do it.
Okay, I understand.
Because it's so disjointed.
Hey, Dave, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I don't have any problem in this process moving forward to the conclusion of this latest round of negotiations to see what the negotiating committee and Mr. Marcus comes up with. I mean, I'm more than happy to do that. I would say that where we started out in our original discussion, there's a number of things here that I'm not very happy with, and I hope they get fixed. But I'm more than happy to wait until the negotiating team gets done and has come back to something that they're mutually agreeable to Mr. Marcus with and brings that back to the board. We've gone this far, there's no point in jumping ship now.
Hey, Pete?
Yes, I feel that the committee is not done yet. Take a look at what you want to live with and you can live with, bring it back to Mr. Marks. Usually when you get to this point and you bring it back and forth, you only got one or two smaller items in the contract that you have to decide on. Now you're deciding almost the whole contract again. I would say for the committee to go back to the meet, discuss it, meet with Frank, Roger, and then just say, okay, what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna go? I know what the board's feeling. Okay, here we go. Go back to Mr. Marks and just say that here's where we are. Are you still interested?
I'd still like to know how you feel about the candidate. You didn't answer any of the questions I asked.
I like the candidate. I think he'd do a good job. Can we afford him? And does he understand the whole concept of the charter township and the rules and regulations and all the other stuff? He's going to have a good year learning process also.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, like I said, when I first made my first comment, I do like him. I think he'd do a great job for us. But there's some of the other things in there I think we just can't carry with. And I think you should go back and negotiate more and come back until there are no more negotiations, and then you have to vote on it.
If we can determine that this board can decide that they want, like Dave's amended his comments, that this is the candidate we want, we feel he can do the job, we feel he can work with the board and the staff and the supervisor and work with the current manager to train, and he would be good for the public, and this is good for the township, that's what we have to focus on. If we can't answer that and be agreeable, he doesn't want to work with a split board. Well, who would? Dennis didn't even want to. We have to decide if this is the candidate we want to try to work with first. Then we can look at the money side of it. And if that doesn't work, then we know it's not going to work. But until we have that answer, half of you are saying, you think you like him and you're not sure, but you're upset because of the way he approached it and the negotiations were all screwed up, and that's irrelevant. Get that emotion out of it and think, is this person the right person for the job? Do I want to support them? Can I work with them? Can we do this, 7-0? Is it possible? If not, then we just stop. We don't even worry about the money. That's irrelevant.
We have to find out if he really wants a job. Every year he gets evaluated, and if you want to raise his pay or some benefits, at that time you can do that. You can open the contract or evaluation. Okay, you got good, he's doing this, we got that, we're saving money here, we're getting this taken care of, whatever. That's what evaluations are, and that's how he's compensated by it.
Dave, you had your hand up for a while. Hang on,
Yeah,
Dan.
I believe we had a 7-0 vote to offer him a conditional offer of employment.
Yeah.
I think we need to move that ahead. We're not done negotiating yet. I think you guys need to go ahead and finish it up and do your job. I haven't heard anybody say they don't think he's qualified to do the job, and I think that'd be a hard argument to make because he's obviously qualified. My issue with everything so far is the add-ons, the number of days off and that type of stuff. I have concerns about that, not because of the money, but because of the time he's taken away from doing his job. I have issue with that because I think we've got a lot of important issues in front of this township between now and the end of the year and certainly into next year that are going to take a lot of hands-on, a lot of dedication. And from watching some of the goings back and forth, I'm not sure that he has that dedication, but that remains to be seen. Again, I'm for moving this forward until we get another contract back from the negotiating team.
Which is why I struck from when the negotiating part in the contract, the 10 days off free. And I told him that. I said, I don't like the fact that you'd be gone from the office that much. I thought it was excessive. 54 days a year is extremely excessive.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to wait and see where that ends up at the end, but yeah. I think we got to finish this up.
I agree with you.
I'd like to ask that if we we don't have to stretch all this all the way out till the next board meeting. If we get the negotiating team and Mr. Marcus come to an agreement on a contract, we should call a special meeting and discuss it and get it decided one way or the other.
Randy and I have already figured that out. We kind of thought Thursday would be good for everybody, but let me get Dan. He's been waiting.
I don't disagree that he would be good for the township. He'd be good for the board, and I think he could get along with the staff very well. I feel the same that 54 days off is a lot. I think the original contract that we gave him was a fair contract. We got a population of 4,000 people. It's not, you know, a city of 200,000 people. And I do agree that I question the dedication. I like the dedication of the manager that we have right now. He is so dedicated to this township. And that's something that he's going to have to prove to us. And by throwing out all of these figures at us that he wants, there again, I don't see the dedication. It seems like me. So I agree. Let's let you guys do some more work, come back to us, see what it is. We always have an alternative to fall back on.
Okay, Ernie?
Listen, everyone. I agree I think he will be an asset to the township overall. Listening to everyone and talking to everyone and then reading the data on that. The question I have is, we turn it back over to the negotiating committee. What are we telling the negotiating committee to do? What kind of information are we going to provide them so they can move forward on that? Are we going to leave it up to them?
Excuse me, just let me say, I'm not asking you to turn anything back. This is just where we are, and he's working on it to have a contract that he can read with the changes that we have made. And we still need to talk to him about it, and then it'll come back to you. So it's still in limbo. I just wanted to clarify that.
Let you finish your job that you started and come back to us when you have that, and then we'll take the discussion from there.
Go ahead, Ernie.
Are you going to take any suggestions that's come up now on the days off, the salaries and that? I have some other items in there too that I foresee as maybe I've been involved with too many things, like termination. He wants 6/12 if he leaves rather than 3/12. So you're talking about 6 months of that. So, and what's the starting date and that? And there was one comment that he wanted to work 10-hour days, 4 days a week. Well, how's that going to all work and that? And for how long? All that, there's a lot of these things that's going to have to be discussed with the gentleman and that. And the question I have is, do you have enough information from our discussions here to move forward in discussing this with him and that at this point in time?
I think I do. I mean, we can ask Randy. The 410s was supposed to be while he was trying to find a place to live. And we kind of kicked around maybe a month. It could be 2 weeks. It could be 45 days. He's committed to living here. He's not going to try to do the Manistee to Marquette like some of the board members had questioned. He wants to live here, but it's a goofy market too right now. And he doesn't know if it's smarter for him to just lease an apartment or lease a condo or actually buy a home. But that was just kind of a hope and not even part of the contract. He just said, do you think the board can work with me until I can get, you know, established? And I said, that's real common. I've done it 6 different times when we did our moves. The 6/12 I'm going to turn over to Randy because he's got comments he's already told this board that.
Yes, Ernie, my comment, I'm going to make a few comments actually because I think it's relevant now. Mr. Marcus he's retired right now and he wants to come out of retirement to work for us. He didn't have to do that, okay, for one thing. And I think the commitment is there. He's going to give us a 5-year contract. That's a big commitment. Another thing is when Randy did his contract, again, 18 years ago, 3/12, 4/12 is maybe the standard. I think 6/12 is the standard now. And it's a really a non-cost item because you only enact that clause if you fire him for no cause. If you fire him for cause, that's not an issue. And I would think if you had to fire the manager for no cause, you should be held accountable to the residents for paying 6/12 of his salary just because the four members of the board didn't like him. So I don't, and it's an election year, you gotta not begrudge the gentleman any protection if the board changes also. You could get 4 members of a new board in here and say, well, I think we're going in another direction, and then the gentleman's left out to dry. So, I mean, if I was him, I'd ask for the same thing, quite frankly. And again, negotiating, I think you look at it as a package, okay? This package that me and Lynn came with is actually cheaper than the package we offered to candidate Limata. If you look at it, and by the time we're done, it will be probably cheaper. So I'm kind of disheartened with this board that they would reject an offer that is cheaper than the previous offer that we gave a candidate that was probably a lot less experienced than this candidate. So, you know, you can't explain how frustrated I'm in right now. It's just terrible.
When I asked Tom, first talked to Tom about the first contract, he said, so I'm assuming you have health insurance and retirement and, you know, vacation and all that. And I said, yeah, we've got pretty much the standard stuff. Said, when we get to it, I can get you those documents. And I said, but what's important to you? You know, maybe you don't need health insurance. Maybe you would like more time off. Maybe you want more life insurance than health insurance. Maybe whatever, you know, everybody's needs are different. And I said, let us know what you want. So he put in the time off. That's important to him. He bumped up the wage more than we had asked. I get that. I think maybe, I'm guessing, that initially when he spoke with Frank as a candidate, an applicant, that Frank probably said, well, Tom, you know, you made a lot more money than this in a year, and this is the township's offering, you know, on top of 108,000. Can you work with that? And Tom probably said, yeah. And Frank, Frank probably said, or Tom was probably assuming he meant the 108. Now I'm just guessing, and we can ask Frank if he wants to chime in, but I have a feeling once you have somebody that's making 160,000 and he's getting an $80,000 moving expense, that's his mindset. And he's coming from the city side, and he put those top typical things in his contract, which his attorney, who is also a city guy, put in. And even Tom said last night, he goes, some of this stuff isn't right. It didn't make sense. So the learning curve here, and to try to figure out what's going to work with interpretations. Again, this is all part of the negotiating side that you wouldn't even see normally. And I know that time off is important to Tom. And like Randy said, if you look at the package, that's why I sent that document to you today, so you could see the packages were similar. While the wages were close, the MERS is a little bit different, the moving expense is a little different, because health insurance was important to Dennis. He needed it for both of them. It may not be to Tom. If he tops out or opts out, and that was a lot of our discussion and trying to figure out what the wording was, and we had to put that in the contract and send it. He had to give it to his attorney. You know, this stuff takes time. But if he decides to opt out, that's saving the township money. Balance that against Dennis. Okay, Dennis had all the township experience you could ask for 10 years. Tom's got a wealth of knowledge beyond that, but he doesn't know nothing, doesn't know anything about township. Obviously, he didn't know we can't pay for Kiwanis, and we can't afford to give him a car, and we can't do this and that. So when we presented that to him yesterday, that's where it all came out. It came out. So my frustration is none of this should have happened. It's too late now. We just have to figure out how to go forward and where we go from here. And if the candidate feels like, if he watches this and feels like, crap, they don't want me, what's the point? You know, we're making this harder than it needs to be. Frank, you had your hand up. You want to chime in?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. The first thing I want to do is thank you and the clerk for all of your work on this. I know how many hours you put into it. I'm reluctant to think that there will be a deal beyond tonight now based on the comments over the last hour. Let me rewind the tape a little bit. In fact, I've been doing this for 23 years, and this is the first time this has ever happened. I asked you, the community, what you wanted the salary range to be. I copied exactly what you used in the prior 1 or 2 searches you did looking for someone. It was a max of 108. And if I would have said to you 3 months ago, we're going to bring you one of the best managers ever to come through Michigan, who has a reputation that's just stellar, and is past president of our 300 people chose him to be the one president of our state association, an unblemished record, who will take Marquette Township to great places, similar to the manager you have now. And it's going to be within the pay scale that you set up. You put a pay scale out before me that was at 108 as a max. So that means if we find the right person, we'll go up to 108. If you weren't going to do this, you never should have had that salary range out there, and you shouldn't have had it in your searches before. I just think we're going backwards quickly on this thing because the process got skewed along the way. I put in a lot of time and effort into this process, and you had a great candidate before you. You put a salary range out, and I'm just, I don't know, just really kind of disappointed. Thank you.
Dave, I saw hands. Dave, were you first?
Yeah, it's not the salary range that bothers me as much as it is all of the extra stuff. But having said that, I'm comfortable that the negotiating team knows what the board is looking for. And I think we should just let the process play out until they come back with the best contract that the 3 of them can work out together and bring it back to the board.
Pete?
Yes. One of the important things is that our manager, he's got to be there. We don't have a part-time position to offer. The days off is very important to him, but it's very important to us. With the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to need a hands-on person, and I know he'll be very good at that. But we'd like to have him see, like Randy now, he's at the office almost every day, you know. But that as long as he knows that he has to get the job done, if it takes 5 days, 6 days, whatever. I'm concerned about that. But I still believe he's a person that for us. I really do. Now, does he really want to come up here? I think he does. You know, I think he's got that additional challenge in him, and he wants to do it. And so when you can finish off the negotiating, I think we'll end up with a good not a candidate, a good manager. I think he's a person for us.
Bernie?
I go along with Dave. I think we can move forward now. I think you have enough knowledge from what we've discussed in that we move forward and see what we come up with at this point in time. And then get back to the board once you get it all set. And that.
Don't come back to the board until you're ready to put the gavel down and say yes or no.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, you're here, John.
I wanted to just say that before we leave this whole subject, something said earlier by Dave that if we need he didn't put it this way, but I'm assuming he meant it. If we need some breather room when you're through with all of this, I think that the suggestion that we consider asking our present manager to hang in for another year is an excellent proposal that we shouldn't just discard. I know we got to go through this, and you are going to get a response, and then you will bring it back to the board. But if in fact, when we're all done with that, if we need breather room, we should be immediately asking our present manager to stay for another year. I agree with that 100%.
Okay, Dan?
I just wanted to, it sounds like we're wrapping this up as far as this subject goes, but I do have that other commitment that I discussed with you that I'm going to have to leave now and go
Okay.
on.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you're able to be here.
I will be in touch, and thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Dan. Okay, he's out at 8:02.
Okay. Roger, do you want to put anything in since you were part of the information network?
No, not really. I was just the scrivener on, I've never met the gentleman. I've watched parts of the interview, but I was the person who drafted the language of things that would come back and forth. Is this possible? Is this not possible? So that was really the total of my input, was to tell you that, yes, this is possible, or no, you shouldn't include that in a contract. Because those decisions of what goes in the contract, what the numerical components are all board decisions. My job is to put that together in a format that is legally enforceable. So I really don't have a lot of input, and my input has been relatively minimal at this point.
Okay, thanks. How about Manager Gerard? You were part of this too.
I guess I don't have anything more to add. I mean, the board members have identified what their concerns are, you know, with regard to the two suggestions that possibly, you know, might be available. Well, that's certainly possible.
Okay. I'm not going to ask Frank at this point where that puts us if that happens. So let's get through with where we are now, and we'll see where it goes. So I don't know when you'll have another document to look at. Like I said, Tom thought maybe today he would have had it done, but it was pretty short notice because the meeting was so quick and we just talked to him. So that's fine. As soon as I have something, someone will contact you about a special meeting, I'm assuming. I think that's the best way to do it rather than wait 2 weeks, unless someone else has an objection. Like to, Randy?
Yeah, I'd just like to continue to comment. The previous candidate that we offered had 33. If he would have did the PTO days, he had 33 PTO days. Tom's asking for 35. And again, I don't know where we go from here, because we're going to negotiate a package. And if you don't like what's in the package, you're going to say no. And it might be a minimal thing, but you can't piece this thing apart. Okay? In my 14 years of being here, this is the most frustrated I've ever been. And I don't usually get very frustrated. But when you look at different things in a contract, there's battles you pick. And sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture. And I understand the time off in a way, but we could have worked on that. And I agree with Frank. After, me and Lynn might talk to Tom tomorrow after watching this and say, I want nothing to do with you guys. And we're back to square one. So, just think about it. This is going to be in the press too. And you know what? Marquette Township turns down another candidate or what have you. Maybe.
Or another candidate discuss.
Yeah, or another candidate refuses to negotiate with us. So, I'm really disheartened with the board, and I think the process was skewed. We hired Mr. Walsh to negotiate for us. When the motion was made, we should have actually caught that then, but it was the wishes of the board at that time for them to have their finger in the pie. And that's exactly what they did. And that's why we was where we are today. And unfortunately, we have to do it in open session, but that's what the law reads. And that's the end of my comments for tonight.
When Tom and Frank found out that we were going to negotiate, but we couldn't actually do it the way it should have been, and that Frank was not going to negotiate. They couldn't believe it because they'd never come across this before. And Tom said, does the board control everything that the manager does? And I said, no, not really at all. That's one of the reasons we implemented, or I was in favor of and pushed, policy government. So the manager could do what he had to do to get the job done, and we would just supervise. And that's what we should do, guide him and direct him. And I think that scared him right from the beginning. And he thought, gee, talk about micromanaging. If we get that reputation, it's going to be with the next candidate if we don't get this one. You know, Ishpeming's already gone through this with 3 candidates. Who else is going to want to work with us?
Over the years, it must be all right because Randy's still here.
Yep. Well, who knows? He may get disgusted too. But shall we move on? No more comments? I don't know if we have any public comment. Anybody want to share any thoughts?
Mike Springer did have something for public comment. I'm going to try to get that up, Lynn, here.
Okay.
So hopefully I can do it. Give me a minute here to see if I can get this going here.
I saw something flash.
Oh, hold on. We're going to do, I got to, hold on. Just got to get my screens here.
Yeah, I can see it.
I got to share that screen and I haven't done it yet. So hold on 1 second here. Or can you see that screen?
No.
Can you see the video, Lynn? No?
No.
No? Okay, let me try to get that here. Well, it looks like it's not going to work, but it was something with, with the Iron Range roll. And I'm not even sure if that's going to happen.
I think probably what it was, there was some discussion at the road committee meeting regarding the Iron Range roll, that they are considering doing it as a virtual race this year. So I think he was probably going to be doing something along those lines, giving background of what that virtual race might look like. But I think if, I believe they have a web page, Iron Range roll web page, that if people are interested in taking a look at it, they could go to that web page. That's coming up, I believe it's this next weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
So what I'll do is I'll just reference in the minutes that Mike Springer was mentioning about the virtual Iron Range roll, and that they're going to do that. Maybe if I can get some information directed to a website or something, maybe.
Maybe direct him. Mike can give you the link to direct him to the website.
Mike, do you want to comment? Can you hear me? You want to comment on it?
Like
he's on, so I don't know. He's muted, but
yeah. Didn't know if he...
Okay, John.
That was John. Okay.
Oh, Mike's coming on here.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, actually, I meant this for public comment. So, you know, the rec committee, we have a number of parks and recreation facilities, and Schwammen is one of them. But Schwammen is different because it's a linear park. And so the last 7 years, we have celebrated National Trails Day, supporting the Iron Range Roll, which is a family-friendly event that supports youth programs at the YMCA. So this year, as you know, we're going virtual. And I tried to send something to Randy.
Yeah, I couldn't get it to work, Mike, on my computer. It wouldn't, the video would not work on it.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt this part because that wasn't, my plan was to be a public comment at the end.
Well, you are right now.
Yeah, we are.
Good.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So it's just that it's something that we celebrate National Trails Day, and we only have one park on the big trail. And so if you can support this virtual year, it'll help us continue on to physical years when we can continue to do what we used to do. And it really is a family friendly thing. I know a lot of people are real competitive. And at my age, that's not me. I usually do the sweep. I love doing the sweep. But anyways, so this year I'm going virtual. I'm doing this Rovi thing. I got this thing set up in my basement. I took this 1988 Nishiki mountain bike. I went through it. I used to be a motorcycle mechanic and a bicycle mechanic. So I went through this whole thing. I rebuilt it. I bought a $500 smart roller, smart trainer. I put this thing on this trainer. I got this big TV in front of me, and I now ride places all over the world through this Rovi thing.
So this is
anyways,
Iron Range. Is this, Mike, what the Iron Range is going to?
I mean, what I want to say to all of you, you want to check this out. There's a guy by the name of Nick Jensen, and he's created this virtual 360-degree ride of the Iron Range roll. And it's perfect. So I can send you links to this.
Okay.
And Rovi, and people can do this. I mean, if people are into this, some people are into this riding competitive, and they will ride these rollers and they will ride these trainers, and they'll ride on a beautiful day in their basement instead of going out on a good day.
Michael, your time is up.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Okay. All right. Yeah, get those links to us. Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else? I was trying to let him finish his thought.
That's Randy's frustration, see? It's coming out.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I'm mean tonight.
Yeah. Dulcie, go ahead.
Do you need the assessor's report, or is that still coming up?
That'll be, Dulcie, actually the second meeting of the month.
Oh, okay.
We talked about.
I'm sorry, Dulcie.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, Dulcie.
I just would like under public comment here real quick.
All I get, okay, I'm going to be done real quick. I'm the second public comment. That was just a advertisement from a rec committee member. So this is from a resident.
Okay.
Really check this stuff out. It's a way, this virtual stuff, it keeps people safe. And I may not return to any physical meetings throughout my career, which ends in December.
Okay. Are we good? Because I don't know if Dulcie wants to keep talking. She had the floor.
I'm sorry, Dulcie.
Okay, Supervisor Durant. I just had, we received the decision on the Menards and City of Escanaba from the MTT, and I had forwarded that to you and to Township Manager and the Township Attorney. As we expected, it didn't exactly go in favor of local government. So I just kind of wanted to give you a real quick, they ruled in favor of Menards. They didn't exactly get everything they were asking for, but it was enough of a significant reduction that we have to have a game plan going forward. And also real quick, the July Board of Review has been opened up to hear different aspects besides clerical errors. So I just wanted to give you a heads up there. The executive order that was signed by our governor extended the ability for people to potentially protest if they were not heard at the march. So we're waiting for further guidance from the State Tax Commission. They did a frequently asked questions, and we're waiting for that bulletin to come out to kind of give us some guidance on what to expect at the local level.
Don't tell Pete though, okay? Because it makes him crazy. Randy was saying that you had some numbers for us. That's kind of what I was thinking you might have tonight, but we can save that for a couple weeks for the next.
I could tell you real quick that they ruled that the taxable and assessed value would be 2.5 million. Wow. The assessor was above 4 million, and Menards wanted 1.9. So they didn't even split the baby. They still ruled heavily in favor of Menards.
Dulcie, do you anticipate there would be any kind of an appeal coming from that to the, probably not, because that was a remand from Supreme Court.
I think at this point, we're kind of beating a dead horse. We really were watching this one because we felt they had the best argument based upon the fact that it had been sent back to the tribunal to have them review all of the approaches to value and not rely solely on the income approach, and to recognize the assessor's use of the cost manual that we're required to use. And unfortunately, I don't feel they put as much weight on that. And at some point, we have to be real aware of what battles we're going to stand a chance in and which battles are pretty much going the same direction. I mean, this has been going on since 2010. And, you know, we all suffered with the 2012 case with Marquette Township, and it's not changing. And I would have thought after what's been going on with our state and our country and in the world right now, we as voters in this state should be very vocal about how some of our rules and regulations are implemented and supported and enforced. I don't think it's fair to any taxpayer, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a homeowner, that there are certain decisions that are made. If for example, if I had my home on December 31st, that's tax day. We look at the status as of December 31st. If it were to burn down on January 1st, I don't get tax relief for that next year because it was still standing on December 31st. So I get a little passionate and I get a little bit upset about this because none of these big box stores or these appeals that are going through the Michigan Tax Tribunal, after they sit in our office and they tell us that, you know, we're not going to appeal, taxes aren't the issue. You weren't closed, you were fully operational, you have not been offered for sale, you were there on tax day. And that's why I just get real frustrated that this continues to be an argument that has been successful. It violates everything else that we do when we base everything on tax day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great observation, great analogy.
That's all I really had for you guys. I just wanted to make sure because you guys are real aware of our budget concerns and our fiscal, and with things that are going on with the lack of revenue sharing, I just wanted to give you the most up to date on what's going on with the tribunal. And then now some of the decisions that are being made for opening up the July board review. Because I honestly can't forecast what's going to happen, and we just got to kind of keep an eye on it and wait for any updates.
So basically, so the board kind of gets the grasp of that is that in March, when we do the 2 days of board review, that's when the folks come in, give us their complaints, questions, and adjustments are made, possibly, sometimes, not always, to whatever their taxable situation is. And then in July, we just do the clerical stuff. So what the governor is saying is that we're going to do like another board of review and give people a chance to either come back or find new problems or have new people show up and say, well, my neighbor got this in March, so I'm going to go. And it circumvents the process again.
I'm just really really cautious about any valuation challenges that we may face that previously were not heard at March, and what impact that's going to be. Because, you know, we're budgeting based on where we ended up after March border review. And now we're allowing protests to come forward that weren't heard in I mean, at some point, we need to finalize what our revenues are going to be outside of any tribunals. But I mean, you know, this impacts any bonded issue, anything that we went to the voters to levy millage on.
Mhm.
If you are not able to kind of say, okay, here's your end date, let's try to plan for this. You know, you're working on your 21 budget already, and now I've got my July being opened up where there may be another round of appeals that weren't heard in March that could potentially be coming forward. And by law and by this executive order, we're not able to tell them they don't have the opportunity. It opened everything up.
Right.
And what I find most frustrating is the bulk of the state of Michigan, everybody that had their board reviews, we're legally closed and met the requirement of March border review. So I don't know who or how it was presented that would give the implication that this needed to take place. But I have spoke with different individuals at the state, and there weren't all of these local units that were not able to conclude businesses according to statute. They met those requirements.
Yeah.
All right, I'll get off my soapbox, guys.
Good information, though. The board doesn't think about this stuff and have to deal with it every day, you know, so it's good information. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And in fact, just on that note, most jurisdictions that I'm aware of, this was when we were well in the midst of the COVID-19, it wasn't quite the mandatory shutdown yet, but the advice that was being given is you must do whatever it takes to comply with getting those Board of Review hearings taken care of on the statutorily mandated dates.
Right.
So I'm not aware of any jurisdiction, at least in this area, that did not comply with that and did not give a full and complete opportunity for anyone who wanted to be heard and to protest to accomplish that. So it came as a bit of a surprise with the executive order.
I don't know who's advising her with anything that she's done in these 110 executive orders. I don't know. What else? Any other public comment?
I have none from the email.
Okay. Let's move to announcements. Do we have any announcements?
Yes, Lynn.
Good.
All the residents in the township should have received an application through absentee vote if they so desired. And I think we've gotten about 400 or 500 of those back already. So it's going to be a pretty busy election. So let me explain this. Getting that application to vote does not guarantee you get a ballot. You just have to fill it out, mail it back to the clerk's office to get a ballot sent to you for the August and November election if you so desire. So if you got that and you want an absentee ballot, you can send it in and you'll get one. We will have 2 polling places open, and we'll go from there.
Okay, that's good information. Any other announcements? Okay, managers report.
All right.
Can I?
Say again? Oh, I will be brief. You received a printed report with regard to the COVID-19 section. You know, I quoted 2020-107. We are now at 110, as has been referenced earlier. That basically is requiring us to continue our remote work that we've been doing, and I don't have a duration on that. I suspect that there will be another press conference possibly tomorrow, but certainly one by Friday that will possibly clarify some of that or extend it a little further. Not sure where that's going to go. I did today see a copy of the letter that Governor Whitmer sent to President Trump shortly. I think it was on the 27th of May, 27th or 29th. thanking him for making the National Guard available to deal with some of the issues that were going on. But in that letter indicated that she fully expected it to go well through summer and into the fall with regard to the pandemic in Michigan. So that might give us a little bit of a idea of what we might be facing with regard to the working remote. At any event, we are in the process of completing the policy to be prepared to bring folks back inside to the office to complete their work on site, if and when that becomes a possibility or a potential. With the issuing of 110, the questions have already started with regard to when will the ice rink and when will the tennis court be available for pickleball and for other activities, and I don't have an answer for that right now. I guess I'm going to ask the board, what is your idea on that? We are in discussion with the other communities around us. We have a plan for reopening. If you'll recall, at the end of last week, we did reopen the green spaces in our parks, but not our climbing structures or the other amenities because of the social distancing rules, which apparently now have been relaxed. Not certain of that. I'm waiting for an opinion with regard to what that actually means with regard to the social distancing 6 feet. The veiled comment that was made in the executive order was a request that, well, we're encouraging the continued taking of precautions among the population. So now it's not a thou shall. I don't know if that means masks are now optional. I don't know if the 6 foot spacing is now optional. We just don't have those questions yet. It was a contradictory executive order that came out. The 492 resurfacing project over by Target is going well. They are scheduled, I believe, tomorrow to start paving on the crush and shape portion of it. It is still anticipated to go for about 3 weeks. Traffic is rerouted. So far, the traffic has not been bad. The only thing that I've observed that is an issue is when the mine trucks, the black double trucks, are coming back from 492 going north. They are coming to the south side of Commerce Drive traffic light, and they are about the only vehicle that can get across the intersection on one green light. So if you can avoid that intersection, avoid it coming north. I don't know, maybe you run US 41 and do the roundabouts in the left turns, but that's the only real hang up that I've experienced so far is on that south side coming north. Last thing is our second ambulance is back here. It's completed. It has been restocked, and the only thing we're waiting on there now is for the Secretary of State's office to open so we can get the title for it. I believe the office opens Thursday this week, Secretary of State. So that's the only thing we're waiting on is the actual title transfer, and then it's good to go.
Okay, any questions for the manager?
Well, I have one.
Go ahead, Pete.
Some of the frustration of people in our township about using our facilities, some do, some don't. Maybe after she addresses us coming up, might change. I don't know. I guess I take the brunt of the pickleball thing a little bit, but you're more than 6 feet away. But will they? Is that acceptable? It's a heck of a lot farther away than going to a dentist and right in your mouth.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It seems that there is a lot of things that are somewhat, or at least seemingly illogical with a lot of these executive orders. For instance, you can't get a haircut, but you can go into Walmart. I don't understand some of the rationale about the closeness. The things related to health, like dentists and optometrists and things like that, I can understand. But it's okay to put a face mask on and go into a big box store, but you can't go to church. It's a lot of this doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. So we're struggling through these. Like I said, we're up to number 110, and all of them reference prior executive orders. So, and Roger can attest to this, we're constantly going from one, jumping back to others to see what's still valid in that one that isn't valid in this one. And so, I guess we're just struggling through it, and hopefully it's going to end here pretty quickly.
That's good.
Hopefully, but with regard to the amenities, we still, if we open it, we have to care for it. We have to make sure it's sanitized. We have to make sure it's cleaned. We have to make sure it's stocked and supplied and everything else. And we've been avoiding that because once you supply it, the supplies disappear literally within the hour. So, it's like we're chasing, cat chasing his tail. Eventually he catches it, but then what do you do with it? It's just, so that's a struggle that we have right now.
Thank you.
People are frustrated. You're right, Pete. That's why they're out in the street protesting.
Well, it gives me an excuse why I can't play pickleball with John, so, I like.
You've got at least 5 excuses that I can think of. 4 of them are ribs and 1's an ankle.
Your shoulder.
Really,
The most dangerous thing in your household appears to be your trailer, let alone not a ladder.
Any other questions for the manager?
One thing I'd like to do is with clerk retiree, I would like to show something at the end of your meeting. It's about utilization of our Schwamwood Park and National Trails Day.
When is National Trails Day? Is that this weekend?
It is. And I'm sorry I missed public comment for that. But I have it set up here. If clerk retiree, if I can share my screen.
Okay,
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, you get a couple minutes here, Frank. Hold on here, Michael. I gotta let you do that. Hold on.
Okay. This is what I got.
Okay, you can share your screen now.
All right, I got the quick time. Let's see how this works. I'm trying to learn this. Share my screen, which is this. Okay.
Yep, we can see it, Mike. It looks good.
IronRangeRoll.com. So Mike, it looks like the public can simply go to IronRangeRoll.com to get the information and sign up for the virtual race.
Yeah,
absolutely. I need to mention this, that our charge in a rec committee is to provide programming, and this provides programming at Schwamwood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael, I'm going to take you off the share screen now.
Appreciate it, Mike. Okay, anything else for the manager? Okay. Review motions, Randy, please.
Okay, the first motion of the night was consent agenda approved. The second motion was approve the agenda as amended because we moved the one item to down 7A to 9C. The third motion of the night was to officially cancel the events for the summer, the car show and community day. And that's it for the evening.
Not a lot of business. Okay, so next agenda is going to have at least some upcoming tax bill insert information discussion, something like that. Again, if you've got any ideas, get them. Randy's probably the best person to give them to.
Sure.
Gerard, and then we can get them on the next agenda. Any board member comment? I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, then I only need one more motion.
Move to adjourn.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Clerk retires, yes. Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
4, 5. Who am I missing? I know Dan Everson's gone. Oh, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes,
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 absent.
I have 8:37.
Okay.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
No gavel.